Welcome. In today's video, I'm going to explain combat between a platoon of T-80 tanks and a platoon of Abrams tanks in Mark H. Walker's The Long Road from Flying Pig Games. But before that, do you ever have trouble pronouncing words in the war game genre? For me, it's definitely multispectral smoke, and a close second would be bocage, because a lot of times I call it brocage. Could you drop a word that's hard for you to pronounce in the war game genre in the comments below? I'm really curious what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Okay, let's get into an example of combat between a platoon of American Abrams tanks and a platoon of Soviet T-80 tanks. Remember that in this game, each one of these counters is representing 3 to 4 tanks. All right, we're going to have the Abrams target the T-80 tank. So to attack an AFE, locate the rightmost column on the FRT that is equal to or less than the attacking combatant's armor-piercing firepower minus the target's armor factor. So since we're having the Abrams target the T-80, we're going to look at their firepower, which is here in the top left. It's 14. The -1 in the superscript is going to modify the die roll. And we're going to take the armor factor for the T-80 platoon, which is 8. So 8 from 14 is 6. So we're starting here with 6 on the fire results table. There are a few other things we need to take into account, like range. So let's see. The Abrams is on a hill. The T-80 is in open terrain. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes away from each other. If we look at the range color explanation, we're going to use the color around the Abrams firepower and refer to this row on the range color explanation. So we said we're 5. So that is in between short to normal range. So there's going to be no shift on the fire results table. For example, if we had been farther away and they might have been in long range, there could have been something that would modify what column we use for the fire results table. The Abrams does have advanced targeting, so they're able to negate a lot of those negative shifts on the fire results table. An example of that is going to be here. So when the Abrams is in normal to long range, it's only a 1 column shift with their advanced targeting. Okay, so we are in normal to short to normal range, so there's going to be no shift. We're still on the 6 for the firepower. And we are in the T-80 is in open terrain. The Abrams is on a hill. So what we're going to do now is we're going to roll a D10 to see if we got any hits. Got a 4. That's great. Now what we're going to do is subtract that 1 and make this a 3. So we're going to refer to the fire results table. We got a 3 and we are on the 6 column. 4 potential hits. That's pretty good. Now the Soviets are going to roll 4 die to see if they're able to negate any of these hits. Before we continue, I wanted to remind you to please subscribe if you have the time. It really helps us out. Thanks. Before we roll, we need to talk about morale. On page 6 of the rules, they indicate the morale of the Soviets and the intrinsic morale of the Americans. The Soviets have a morale of 3, and the American combatants have a morale of 4. In order for the Soviets to negate some of these hits, they're going to have to roll a 3 or less. Anything greater than a 3 is going to be a hit on the T-80 tank. So here we're going to roll 4 die and see how many of these are hits. All right. That doesn't look too good. So none of these have been negated. We got an 8, a 5, 4, and a 4. So what happens here is the first hit, I'm just going to walk you through this, is going to disrupt the tank. The next is going to flip it to its reduced side. And lastly, it's going to destroy it. So we definitely destroyed it because we got 4 hits, where we leave a wreck. If for some reason we were able to roll a natural 0 or a 1, you can see the rows here are red and yellow. That's called a critical hit. And in that specific case where we got 4 hits, it would actually leave a smoking red, which would obscure line of sight. So this is just a normal wreck. We mark our Abrams as fired. And that is an example of combat between a platoon of Abrams tanks and a platoon of T-80 tanks. Now I want to flip the script. Let's go with the T-80 platoon targeting the Abrams platoon on the hill. Make sure you stay tuned until the end of the video because we have a little bit of a surprise for you guys. Also, don't forget to check out the other long road videos on our channel. I will link them in this video here. Okay, now we have this T-80 platoon targeting the Abrams platoon on the hill. We're going to take the T-80's firepower, which is 12, and the Abrams armor factor, which is 8. The Abrams have a +1 to their armor factor because it's a little bit better than the T-80 tanks. That means we're going to add that to the T-80's die roll that we'll make in just a second. So 8 from 12 is going to be 4. That means we're starting off on the 4 column of the firepower. Let's see if there's any other factors that are going to affect any column shifts before we roll a die. We're still 5 spaces away. The only difference is that the T-80's firepower is highlighted in orange. So that means on the range color explanation, instead of looking at red, which we did for the Abrams, we're now looking at orange. We're still within short to normal range, which is going to be no shift. That means we're still on this 4 column. There is a factor that we need to take into account that we didn't before. The Abrams is on a hill. So if we look at hill on the terrain effects chart, there's actually going to be 1 column shift to the left because that T-80 platoon is shooting up at the Abrams platoon. So we were on 4. Now we're going to move to 2. The Abrams still gets that advantage for being on the hill, which is great. We're now going to roll 1d10 for the Soviets to see if any potential hits. All right, a 5. Can't forget to add the 1 from the armor factor, so that's actually a 6. So we were on 2. 6 and 2. That's no effect. The Abrams were able to live to see another day. The T-80 platoon has fired, and that's another example of combat between these 2 different types of tank platoons. Thanks again for watching this video about combat between a platoon of T-80 tanks and Abrams tanks and Mark H. Walker's The Long Road. If you're interested in playing The Long Road, in the description below, I have a link to The Long Road in the Flying Pig Games store. So, some really exciting news. Starting this month, we're going to have a monthly update that comes out on our channel. This update is going to include games that we have coming out, Kickstarters, fulfillment dates and shipping dates for old Kickstarters, and stuff that we have coming down the Flying Pig pipeline. This is going to be a huge year for us, so please stay tuned and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. Thanks again for watching.